I'm going to show you the Shogi game here. Here's the Shogi game. And it's really cool because this was me against level 5 computer. And see, I'm just going to use my foot to hold the table in place. See if that works. Okay, so here's what we got going on here. Starting out the game, the opponent started first. I was Gote. Sente starts, Gote goes second. So anyway, so what I did, and this was a very different thing I did that compared to previous games, is I moved that lance pawn there so the bishop would have an escape and wouldn't just be trapped behind pawns. But then I moved a little bit, and then my opponent moved the king there. And I thought that was a really odd move because my opponent doesn't usually do that. I'm not entirely sure why. But that enabled me to do something cool. So I moved the center pawn. I thought, I'm going to try to attack the center. And then they moved their rook's pawn, which I'm not too surprised. I moved this pawn into the center right there, allowing the bishop to take it so that I could bring my rook there and attack the bishop and the center pawn. So I purposely sacrificed a pawn in the game of Shogi just so that I could get that pawn out of my way so I could get my rook active immediately. So then the bishop just retreated because it didn't want to be taken. And so then I started moving the silver general up there. My opponent moved their pawn, so my pawn captured it, and then the rook captured it. And this was cool because this was a situation I saw an opportunity. I saw an opportunity in the situation here, and I thought, what if I get my bishop and my rook both attacking that center pawn? All it has is a king defending it. So what I did is I pinned the rook right there, and the rook didn't want to move. So instead, it tried to defend with a pawn, which was very, very weird. So I can still take the rook with my bishop, but then I would lose my bishop. But instead, I just dropped a pawn in front of the rook, and then the rook had nowhere to go. Well, technically, it could have just taken the pawn. It could have done that, but it chose not to. Instead, they advanced that pawn. And then I thought, well, let's just kill the rook with the pawn. And then they moved that pawn. I don't know. See, the level 5 computer must not be that smart. It must really not be that smart. So I just took that pawn, and then they advanced that silver general there. And I thought it was rather interesting. So here's what actually happened. That lance had taken my pawn, and that bishop would have been killed anyway. So I decided to risk it and decided to just sacrifice the bishop. Then they captured, but then what I did is my lance captured that lance. And then they dropped the bishop there, but then I put them in check. And then after they got out of check, I captured the knight. So here, I already was starting to get more pieces. I don't know why they put that pawn there exactly. That was weird. But then what I did is I forked the silver general and the bishop by dropping the extra knight there. So, of course, the bishop moved, but then I captured this. Oh, that's right. I didn't capture the silver general yet. Instead, what I first did was that I put that lance there to also target it. Then we had a case of this was fun, you see, because I captured that, and then that bishop captured back. But then I dropped that there because it was in line with that pawn. So I didn't want that bishop involved. So I cut that bishop from access to there. And then I attacked the bishop again. Then I'm attacking that bishop with the lance, you see. And then the bishop captured my lance. But as soon as my lance captures their bishop, it puts the king in check. So they had to do something. So then the gold general captures it. But because my rook was promoted by this time, I put them in check and attacked their bishop at the same time. There was nothing they could do. So they block with the lance, and then I capture a bishop. So this put me in a position. This right here was the critical moment because you see, having two rooks on the board, one of which is promoted, and two bishops in reserve, means I have all of the most powerful pieces at this point. It was incredible. So then they started trying to drop what they had. They had a knight and they tried to attack that. But I just ignored that. And then they dropped that lance there, but I just dropped a pawn in the way because I could do that. I captured back the knight. So then the thing is, because there's drops in Shogi, the board can still keep changing. Pieces come back on the board. But I got that lance. And once I got that lance, it was crazy because then that gold general, in order for the gold general to defend itself, it would have had to move out of the way. But instead, they moved the king. I thought that was an interesting thing. Now, if you see that, now I did that. That's what I actually did. And that wasn't bad by any means, but I missed an opportunity. What I should have done is I should have put the knight right there. I should have put the knight right on that square because that would have forked the gold general with the king. That didn't occur to me at the time, but that would have been the best move. But instead, I took their gold general. They took my lance there, and then I used the bishop. And they put that lance in the way. But then, this is where it gets interesting. So I started getting more pieces. I started dropping more pieces, putting pressure on that. And here is where I did fork the king and the lance. So the lance in front of the knight could not capture because that would have put the king in check with the bishop. So the king simply moved. Why the king moved there, I'll never know. But then I captured that lance. And they tried to advance their promoted pawn there, which is no trouble because my rook was there and it just killed it. Then I sacrificed that knight to capture that. Yeah, that silver general. That was interesting. Then the king just moved. See, there was a lot of king movement. There was a lot there that was happening. And honestly, I don't know why the king just moved around like that and wasted time. But the end result was they kept dropping pieces and they had no more pieces to drop. I captured everything, almost everything they had. And after a certain point, I decided, let's just try to set up the checkmate. So I kept capturing things. Then silver general, king goes there. And there we have it. Because technically, the king couldn't move. It couldn't move here because of this bishop right here. And it couldn't go here or here because of the silver general, and it couldn't go here because of this silver general. It was checkmate. I beat level 5. And that's the best achievement I have in Shogi is beating a level 5 computer. Because I'm not really able to win against human opponents all that well because I'm still new to the game of Shogi, but Shogi really is a great game. It really is.